How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the 32nd episode of Critically Incorrect. I'm joined here today by Charlie, if you wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, so decent news for gaming this week. Some surprising news stories, but also nothing terribly big. As I'm sure you've already noticed, Justin isn't with us this week. Yeah, just yet again, he wasn't able to join us this week, just because of work. That being said, I do want to say that next week we most likely won't have an episode out, just because I'm going to be out of town. In the slight chance that there's some big major news that we need to cover, Justin and Charlie will probably just record it and figure it out. But yeah, as it stands right now, next episode will be about in 2 weeks' time with hopefully the return of Justin. But yeah, that being said, Charlie, what have you been playing for the past week?
I actually haven't played a ton this week. I've been pretty busy at work, so I haven't had a ton of time to play stuff. It's again mainly been some multiplayer things, so some more like Chivalry. I've been playing with some mates as well as like League of Legends, as always. I did actually start up New Game Plus on Ghost just because I hadn't tried it at all. And then like obviously the news with Ghost came out, so I haven't gone back to it since then. I did also boot up Demon Souls today for like 5 minutes, so I might go back to that at some point this week, slash next week. But aside from that, there's not been a ton. I did reinstall Max Payne 3 because I watched a video on it and was like, I kind of really want to replay this game. But yeah, not much this week. I've been pretty busy, so.
Nice, nice. I haven't played terribly much either, just like the standard multiplayer games with friends. I usually just been doing that at night. It's like a social aspect, right? In terms of single player games, I haven't really played much. I do want to start up some games, but I haven't played terribly much. I think the only thing that comes to mind right now is I started Valkyria Chronicles 4. I bought that on the Steam Summer Sale just because I've heard it's a lot like Fire Emblem, and it's such a weird game. Like, I like it. I think it's kind of easy compared to Fire Emblem so far, but it's like such a weird game. It's like a genre. It's like a genre mix of like a third person shooter and like the standard strategy games. Like, you'll select a character, right, and you'll move them, but like you actually have control of where you're aiming, unlike just regular turn games where
Okay.
normally just lock onto an enemy. It's like such a weird mesh, but it works. So I've been playing that. I also bought Chrono Trigger, that was on sale, but I haven't started it up yet. I don't think I've started anything else single player wise, which is weird to me. Yeah, I guess I just haven't played anything single player wise besides that. And I literally just started Valkyria Chronicles last night, so yeah, it's also been a pretty low key week for me as well. I do want to start up some games more here in the summer though, so definitely looking at that. And yeah, before we get into the releases this week, at the very beginning of the episode, if you have any topic suggestions, any feedback, you know, just want to hang out with us, talk to us, join our Discord server, or, of course, leave a comment in our YouTube videos down below. So, yeah, with that being said, releases this week hasn't been terribly much. There's not really even any new games. It's just been like updates, right? So, Doom Eternal finally got that next gen / RTX update. I believe we talked about this a few weeks back when they announced it. But yeah, it finally came out this week, so go check that out. And then, the new Smash character, Kazuya from Tekken, I believe. So, yeah, those were the two major updates this week. And yeah, we'll get into our gaming news. So, as we said last week, wait this week, to purchase, what was it? Plague Tale,
Plague Tale.
because the rumor was it was going to be the PS Plus game for July. And yeah, we got the announcement this weekend. Turns out it was right. So yeah, Plague Tale PS5 is your PS5 game for July. And then the two PS4 games are Black Ops 4 and WWE Battlegrounds. So, really cool to see that Plague Tale's on there. I don't really care for Black Ops 4, and I definitely don't care for WWE Battlegrounds, but Plague Tale PS5, I'm definitely going to play that next week. So I guess that'll be my answer for what I play next week. Yeah, there you go. Charlie, what do you think? Are you going to finally play Plague Tale now,
Yeah,
or finish
Plague
it up?
Tale's probably going to be the game that I really dive into next week because I do want to get through that, so I'll probably play that at some point after it goes free. I'm probably going to download Black Ops 4 just because I really liked Blackout. I was a big fan of it when it came out, but it died very quickly on PC where I played it. And I never really played it on PlayStation, but I'm hoping because it's free on PS Plus, it's really going to boost the player base and I can go back to it because Blackout was a lot of fun and was very different to Warzone, so I kind of want to experience it again. And I'm sure it'll run pretty smoothly on PS5 and stuff. So yeah, I'm probably going to dive into that. WWE though, I don't care for. It's not my kind of game. So
Whenever I think of WWE Battlegrounds, I think of it in that one Nintendo Direct right before Shin Megami Tensei was announced.
I
Which is
just
just a
whenever I
really
hear the name, I just think of PUBG, and I'm like, why did they call it that? Battlegrounds
Battlegrounds.
is such a
Yeah,
weird name for it.
yeah, it's weird. But yeah, I think it's like a alright week. I think definitely Plague Tale makes it, right? I think a lot of people
Yeah.
are really looking forward to that. They haven't played it yet, so that's really cool. And the fact that it's a PS5 version, I believe it has like enhancements, so that's really cool to see. Anyway, speaking of enhancements, Ghost of Tsushima's director's cut was officially revealed. So yeah, this came kind of as a surprise. I think a lot of us are kind of expecting Sony to do some sort of summer event, but here they just kind of randomly announced Ghost of Tsushima director's cut like they did with Death Stranding. So yeah, it was officially revealed. It's coming out fairly soon, just next month on August the 20th. It's essentially going to be a mix of enhancements and new story content. So the story content comes in the form of a new island. It's just a new island that's history related. It was one of the islands that's next to Tsushima that was also invaded. So yeah, that's the new story content. Don't believe they've gone much on that. They showed like a few seconds of footage of it. But yeah, largely it's unknown right now. The enhancements are a bit split between PS5 and just like general enhancements. So there's going to be some new updates that are just for PS4 owner or just in general, right? So it'll be for PS4 and PS5. So yeah, there's going to be some general enhancements there, but PS5 has like a whole slew of new things like Japanese lip sync, haptic feedback, and adaptive triggers, which are only possible in the DualSense. So yeah. The upgrade system is a little bit tricky until you figure out the pricing, right? So essentially the $20 upgrade is for the new story content, and the $10 upgrade is for the PS5 version. So ultimately, if you have a PS4 copy of Ghost and you want the director's cut on PS5, it's going to be $30. Otherwise, if you don't have a PS5 and you just want the new story content or the enhancements in the story content, it's a $20 upgrade for the new content there. So pretty interesting. I definitely gonna use this as an opportunity to go back to Ghost. They've already announced things like save transfer for me, so I'm definitely really happy about that. To me, it just gives me an excuse not to play this game until next month, where I'll get enhancements that make it better on PS5. So, Charlie, what's your game plan here with Ghost, and what do you think about this announcement?
Yeah, I mean the pricing system's really weird. I think they could have done it way better, especially because the thing is with like the upgrade for PS4 is the only real thing you're paying for is the story content. So I don't really know why they didn't just make it. It's just a DLC expansion. The fact that it's this weird upgrade thing is kind of odd. I don't really know why they did that. But I will be buying it. I hope it's like the other games where once I transfer my save, I'll just get all my trophies and get a free platinum because that's always nice to see. And they have said there's going to be new trophies for the story content, presumably for the new Legends mode, which they kind of teased. And they did say there's going to be some more Legends content as well after this new mode, which is cool because I do want to get back into that because I did enjoy what I played last week when I went back. So, yeah, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'll be picking it up for sure when it comes out because I loved Ghost. So I'm very excited to give that one a go.
I guess this will also kind of answer our Death Stranding pricing question, because I can't imagine they're going to change up the pricing scheme, right? So most likely, unless it's something very different, I'm guessing the Death Stranding director's cut will include new content and also be like enhancements, right? And it'll be like a
Yeah.
$30 upgrade. So most likely that's your answer for Death Stranding's director's cut, which we don't have a date on that. I'm guessing, it's honestly, it could be random. Like next week, we could see another trailer, or they could wait for an event. I'm guessing if this is coming out in August, maybe the Death Stranding one's like in September or something. But yeah, really cool
Yeah,
to see there.
because it'll be
Hmm.
so for Ghost, it'll be like what, just over a year after. It'll be like 13 months after it came out. So, I mean, that's a pretty decent turnaround. Death Stranding, obviously,
It's
there's been
almost
a
been
big
2 years,
gap,
yeah.
so it could come out whenever. But I imagine it's
I just
like you
don't
said,
think they'll
probably
drop it in the
September.
same month, most likely,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's probably September.
Yeah.
But the weird thing with that is they haven't announced if that's coming to PS4, so who knows what's going on with that one.
Yeah, that's true. It's up in the air. I imagine most likely maybe the story content. I think it'll probably be the same thing, honestly. It'll
Yeah,
probably
I would
just
have
be like the
thought so.
enhancements on PS5. Yeah. So that's really cool to see. Do you think they're gonna do like a Last of Us 2 director's cut now that these two are announced?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a given. The once
Hmm.
they announced this as being called Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, I
There's like a
now
series of
think that
games.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be literally every time they re-release a game now, that'll be the title, because Sony are that kind of like stuck up kind of thing. They're
Oh
like, oh,
yeah,
it's
or
a
critically acclaimed
Director's Cut.
games.
They'll
Yeah.
start calling it. It'll be like Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it'll be like whoever the game director is, their Ghost of Tsushima or Hideo Kojima's Death
It's
Stranding. It'll
not
be
even a
really dumb.
director's cut. It's like a game of the year edition because it's not like some
Exactly.
true
Yeah.
vision that's been like hidden from the like original release. It's like just
Yeah. It's
extra
very odd.
content and expansion. So yeah, we'll see the last of those two director's cut, and
The
I'm
way
sure
Neil
that'll be a
intended it
thing.
the whole time.
I know, and maybe they'll change the ending, right? The ending that, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's just stupid naming, but yeah, like Charlie said, it's just Sony seeing themselves as like the creative forces that they are. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. Anyways, I guess we also had another big story, probably the biggest one this week, is PlayStation acquired Housemarque. So I think, whenever people mentioned who PlayStation was going to possibly acquire, I think the main ones you always saw was, I think first you'd always see Bluepoint, and then you'd see like Housemarque, right? Not really many others. There's like, Ready at Dawn before they were acquired by Facebook, and then Insomniac was one that was thrown around before, they were eventually acquired. So really cool to see that they acquired Housemarque. I'm guessing that most likely this was, I'm not sure the situation around it. Like they said that the conversation started in 2020, but it got pushed because of Returnal. So to me, it didn't seem like they were waiting on the success for Returnal. It seemed like they always had the intention of acquiring them before. But really cool to see nonetheless that, the success for Returnal came out, and nonetheless, we're seeing them getting supported. Housemarque's always like one of those studios where their games are always consistently really good, but not always like commercially really good. Like they'll be really good games, but they won't commercially sell well. So it's really cool to see that they have the support from PlayStation going forward. They've even mentioned that the studio is expanding and they're going to be only going bigger in scope. So I imagine all their games going forward are going to probably be like on the scale of Returnal, which is really cool to see because the gameplay loops are kind of like those that you'd find from like really addicting like indie like games, but as we saw with Returnal, it's really cool to see that like AAA polish on it. So yeah, Charlie, what'd you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's really cool that they finally have acquired them. Like you said, I think it's great they're going to have that kind of polish in all their games now, and they're only going to get bigger from here. So I do wonder what that means for their other projects, because normally Housemarque was one of those studios that kind of had multiple teams working on multiple things. Obviously, they were working on that Storm Divers game for a long
The battle
time.
royale, right?
Yeah, so I don't know because that was put on hold for Eternal. So who knows what's going to happen with that? I wouldn't be surprised if it just gets canned at this point because it wasn't one of those games that was ever like really hyped up by people when it was in like beta and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I imagine they're gonna sort of start from scratch and start work on something really big now. Hopefully, it was like Housemarque do really good arcade stuff as long as they stick to what they're good at. I do hope they keep in that niche because I don't want them to just become another Sony single player studio. I would like
Oh
them to
yeah, for
keep
sure.
with their niche of the kind of like bullet hell arcade style stuff because they're really good at that. So
I hope Sony just like strictly funds them, and then obviously they have to have some level of management, right? Because obviously
yeah.
they're a business, but like keep the creative control to them. I think Returnal, like, there's no way like Sony wanted Housemarque to create Returnal, right? Like it's probably like their envision because like there's no way that they would take a risk like that. So yeah, just keep doing stuff like that. I imagine their next game will be a new IP. They don't generally do like big sequel like stuff. Like even playing Returnal, this feels like a one-off game that's never gonna get a sequel again because it's just not that kind of game, right? So yeah, really cool to see. I think this definitely, boosts morale that, the conversations that we had earlier in the year, whereas, Sony was strictly sticking to single player games, which they are generally in their big studios, but having acquisitions like this helps to kind of like diversify their lineup, which is really cool to see. It's also worth mentioning that they did acquire another studio, so this one's kind of on the smaller side, but nonetheless, it does kind of show us kind of Sony's thinking right now. So they acquired Nixxis, which isn't a name that's super popular, but if you have played PC quite a bit, you've seen their name thrown around. They're specialized in PC ports, so yeah, it looks like they're acquiring them mainly for the goal of hopefully, or probably taking the PC porting aspects of a lot of the Worldwide Studios titles to hopefully, Nixxis instead of, having the own teams within develop them. So, did you have any other information or comments to add on Nixxis, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean they're a pretty big studio. They've worked for a long time on PC ports. I think since like the early 2000s, like late 90s. So they've worked on a lot of stuff. I think the biggest things they've done more recently are like the Tomb Raider games as well as Avengers for Crystal Dynamics. That's kind of their last big project. So they're good at what they do. But I think it's a smart idea for PlayStation because it obviously, I imagine things like Days Gone probably ate up quite a bit of resources at Ben to get all that ported over to PC and make sure the engine's going to work smoothly and stuff. So being able to sort of hand over those things to Nixxis and go, hey, try and make our engine work on PC and get it all fixed while we work on something new and we don't have to worry about it too much. I think that's a good idea for them. It also could mean that stuff like if Factions does come to PC, it would be like day and date because they would have a studio like Nixxis helping them throughout the final sort of stretch of development to get it ported over. So
yeah, really cool to see. Definitely think it's smart, especially if they're looking to transfer like a lot of their lineup of PS4 titles and upcoming PS5 titles to PC. So really cool to see there. It's also worth mentioning that with the announcement of with the Housemarque acquisition, PlayStation Japan accidentally originally uploaded like the wrong image of Bluepoint. So like it's pretty much obvious now that PlayStation's most likely going to acquire Bluepoint as well. I don't know how you make a mistake like that unless that's something that's, in development. I'd imagine like they probably have like another image lined up for like in a few weeks from now from when they announced the Bluepoint acquisition.
It's gotta be whoever's in charge of that account just had both images saved in like a folder,
right.
And the images look so similar, right? That if you don't like double check it, they probably just clicked on it and were like, oh yeah, this is the one, upload and set for the time. And it wasn't until it goes up they're like, wait, that was the wrong image we uploaded. So yeah, because it's not like that image was made quickly. Like clearly they put effort into it because it's got a different background with the Knight from Demon Souls in the background stuff, so it's not like the same image just with the Bluepoint logo. It's literally a different background. So
so looks like Sony acquired an arcade studio, a PC port studio, and now a remake studio. Charlie, do you think that Bluepoint will like go into making their own games, or do you think that Sony's just going to use them as like a remake studio?
I think for now they're still going to be a remake studio because I think they like doing that as well.
Yeah, because you look at the interviews and they have that like kind of like that's kind of like the philosophy is like exactly.
Like they're good at what they do and they enjoy doing it. So I imagine they will just hire people that want to make the games that they grew up with just better. That's just how I imagine that studio is going to work for a long time. Maybe eventually they'll do their own thing. I mean, we kind of got a taste of that in Demon Souls, right? They kind of put their own spin on certain things when it comes to like weapons and stuff and animation and stuff like that. So I imagine that they'll slowly get a bit more freedom, but overall I feel like they're going to stick to remakes. So yeah.
I hope they go into like older titles like PS1 era, just because I don't know, like the remakes are really good. Right? Yeah, right. Metal Gear makes sense. Just because like you still see with Demon Souls like it still plays the same. Like it's still like they're trying to get parity, right? Like how it plays in the original, and then fix stuff that obviously with technology as it improves over time you could fix. But it's still like obviously it's like very 1-to-1 mostly. So I'd love to see It's not like terribly 1-to-1, but you know what I'm talking about. But like seeing things like the Final Fantasy VII remake where it's like a reimagining. Yeah. I don't know if they'd ever do something like that, but somewhere in between a Demon Souls and a Final Fantasy VII, where like these very classic PlayStation titles, like Metal Gear, essentially remastered and remade from the ground up. That'd be really cool to see. So yeah, really cool, and hopefully they announce that soon, just so we can get that solidified. So very, very cool there. Anyways, a smaller news story that broke this week actually was just broken today as we're recording this on Friday. Netherrealm confirmed on Twitter that no more DLC is going to be coming to Mortal Kombat 11. Right now they're focused on our next project. So yeah, I can't say I'm super surprised. What DLC periods usually for these kind of games last like a year and a half after the game came out, maybe like a year. They usually have they let the DLC linger for at least a year. Was Mortal Kombat 11's DLC like smaller than like say 10 or anything like that, if you know?
No, well normally they do about a year. They did 2 years with Mortal Kombat 11, so they did an extra pack and they did the story expansion. So they did quite a bit for MK11 compared to normal. So yeah.
So yeah, definitely don't think anyone should be too surprised by that. I was going to say, Mortal Kombat 11's definitely been out for quite a bit of time. They even had like the next-gen versions as well, so really cool to see what they work on next. I know that it's been rumored that they're working on like a Marvel versus DC. I know Ed Boon's been kind of teasing something like that. So hopefully that is real, and hopefully that's something that's going to happen. Definitely would be really cool in that, so Yeah. Anyways, a story that kind of brings us back. I think on one of our first episodes we talked about Rockstar. I think Charlie in some way. Could be wrong, but
Probably, yeah.
the co-founder Dan Houser has founded a new studio. So I know I definitely talked to you, Charlie, about this in the past, just because we knew that he was like such a creative force behind Rockstar, and we kind of
Yeah.
wondered what direction they were going to be going in. Yeah, essentially this week he started up his new studio. After leaving the studio over at Rockstar. So, yeah, it's just essentially one of those things where it's like a new patent and, not a patent, but like a trademark, right? So, yeah, someone just found this online, and I think Rockstar Magazine picked it up in GTA forums. Obviously, the community that follows these people, right, that are very passionate about these type of games. So yeah, the studio is very early in development. It seems like this was only registered like in February of this year. It's called Absurd Ventures LLC. So yeah, not sure if it's going to be on the smaller side. It seems like it's probably going to be on the, I'd say probably like AA side compared to a AAA, because it doesn't seem like it's a terribly big studio at the moment. But we'll see what he does there. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this kind of confirms that Rockstar and Take Two want to go in a very different direction. Because when Dan left, Dan has like written most of their games since GTA, the original GTA. He wrote all of like GTA 4 and 5 and Red Dead 1 and 2. So like he is a very big and very good writer. So the fact that he left always made me think that maybe they wanted to move away from that kind of direction of story driven stuff, because obviously, they make money initially, but the stuff that makes them a ton of money is the GTA Onlines and that kind of thing. Um, so him leaving and now making another game studio kind of just confirms to me that he still wants to write and make games. It's just Rockstar was not the place he wanted to do that anymore. And since he founded it, you would imagine there was a bigger reason for leaving, right? So
Yeah.
to me, it seems like Rockstar's going in a very different direction to what he would like. So that's why he's made this new studio. It is very early days, to the point where I think the address where the company's actually like founded is basically where he lives. Like it's a small like town basically in England, and it's not linked to like an office space or anything like that. So it seems like he has literally set up this business. They don't have like an office space or any members of a team yet. It's
Yeah,
very
it's an
early days.
LLC, so it's a very small
Yeah.
company. Yeah,
So
it's
he's
interesting.
just now setting it up. So I imagine we won't hear like an official announcement from him or like the studio for a while. Dan has also never been the most public of people. None of the people at Rockstar have. I think
It's so
he's
weird.
done. The last time he appeared in public was at like the DICE Awards like 7 years ago. I think it was like 2014. So he doesn't show his face very often. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, speaking on that point, it's like crazy because I've like researched Rockstar in the past, and it's like usually with like a lot of developers, you get like these tours stuff and like a lot of information online. Rockstar, it's like a question mark, like it's like literally so,
Yeah.
you know, hidden. It's weird, considering the kind of games they produce. So, yeah, definitely interesting. Sucks to see that with the announcement of this new studio, most likely it's just Take Two's probably sees a very different direction for how they want to, utilize Rockstar going forward. Yeah, obviously in GTA 5, if you put it together, GTA 5 was the first one that had GTA Online, a massive kind of, you know, games as a service, right? So I imagine the next title that they have is going to be more focused on that aspect of the game rather than the story. You could point to Red Dead Redemption 2, right? That, they're still committed to that kind of storytelling, but with Dan now leaving and the fact that, yeah, it's just like, that's like the major part of it. Like, sure, it's more than just one person, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just very skeptical about the direction of the next GTA, especially as we've been hearing that they want to release it in phases with the map changing over time. Like, sure, that
Oh
stuff is
yeah.
kind of cool, but having that in like a single player setting is kind of weird to me. I could totally see that for like an online mode, but something that's strictly, a single player story, I don't know. That doesn't seem right to me. So it'll be interesting to see. I do want to include here, because I know this was like a small headline by like some notorious leaker apparently in the community. Apparently GTA 5 or GTA 6 is planned for 2025. You always see these headlines, right? And I never report on them because they're always BS or like 4chan posts. But
Yeah.
this guy has gotten stuff right in the past. So possibly. I also think that 4 years sounds about right given Rockstar time. So like, it's not like one of
I
those things where it's like, oh, it's coming out next year, which obviously we would know is fake, right? It's one that could seem real. So
I think he
Yeah.
said the reasoning for that date as well was because apparently since the big article about crunch during Red Dead 2, Rockstar have taken it to heart and are kind of trying to mitigate as
Hmm.
much crunch as possible because they
Yeah.
don't have to worry about, making sure they hit like money like goals or whatever every 4 quarters or a year because GTA Online covers all that for them. So they're not in a rush to ever release stuff. So as we saw with Red Dead 2, that took them a long time to put out, and they announced it for what, end of 2017. It was like a whole year they delayed that, like over time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know when they would announce GTA 6. It's honestly at a point where we could get the announcement anytime. Usually they announce them like in the fall, and that's what they
I
did in
just
the
hope
past.
I just hope they announce it and then it's out soon. I don't like how Rockstar have done stuff in the past because they usually show off stuff pretty early because
Like
they
2 years
think the
before,
game's
yeah.
going to be out soon and then it gets delayed. So I'd rather they just wait until they're really sure to show something off first because
I
like
think
I'm not in a rush. So
I think the announcement of GTA 5 coming to next gen consoles makes it seem like we're probably not going to get the announcement at least this fall. Just
yeah.
because I think like if you get a trailer for GTA 6 in October, November while you're trying to sell another copy of GTA 5 to everyone, that's just the stupid thing to do. So, yeah, it looks like for sure with GTA 6 we won't be getting anything until I'd say next fall. Give it a year that GTA 5 has been on next gen platforms, and then I say we're in the ballpark of possibly getting an announcement. But yeah, who knows? Honestly, those games take forever. It's like weird. I did the math right, and like GTA 5 what like came out when I was like turning 13, and if it comes out in 2025, I'll be like 25. Like literally half my life, GTA 5 has been around, uh, and yeah, that's crazy for like a gap between like a new installment in the
Yeah,
series.
it's
Like when do you
weird.
ever see that? It's like Half Life
Except
level
for
right
maybe
there.
what I was gonna say, what like Skyrim, maybe Elder Scrolls. Like I feel like
Yeah,
that might be a bigger gap.
that's a good comparison. Yeah, that'll be yeah. It'll be the sequel to Skyrim and the sequel to GTA 5. Those are gonna be the two ones. Like if you think about it, I
Yeah,
think they're gonna come out around. Well, Elder Scrolls will be later for sure because one
yeah.
of our
We got
later
Starfield
headlines,
first.
yeah, we have about that. It's crazy how these games, man, take forever to make. But it makes sense, obviously, with these worlds. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Anyways, I guess we'll move on. A new exciting story is more development on a story we talked about last week, which was Dead Space. So Jeff Grubb broke kind of news on his live stream slash article. This one came in the form of an article he wrote for VentureBeat, which is where he works at. Essentially, he covered that they're taking a lot of inspiration from Capcom and what they did with Resident Evil 2 Remake, and that this new Dead Space game will be essentially a remake of the first Dead Space. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Alongside this is a small news story that the Assassin's Creed Valhalla director joined EA Motive, which is the studio that's reportedly rebooting this game. So, not like that's going to be anything that affect this game, I imagine, if it's far along in development. But yeah, some people have been like memeing online that they're kind of scared that the open world director of Valhalla is joining, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, Charlie, what'd you think about this? I know you recently played Dead Space on stream, so how do you
Yeah,
like the sound of a remake?
I mean, I'd be interested to see what they do with it. I think Dead Space 1 is pretty outdated, to be honest. Like, playing through it, it's fun, and it's definitely, like, it's not clunky, but it definitely would need work if they were to at least remaster it. And I think it's more like a reboot, right? Like, I think the way they worded it in the articles, it's more of a reboot, but the title is Remake, so who knows what it'll actually turn out as, but I feel like the idea is they want to kind of just reboot the universe and take some of the story beats and stuff from the original, but put it in a new setting with maybe a new main character and that kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if honestly this director has something to do with Dead Space because
It could be an
Dead Space.
early development, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Dead Space is that far in development. I'll be honest. I think it's probably only been in development like a year, just because EA Motive were working on that weird project that was like people flying around like a city and blowing stuff up for like
Yeah.
ages before it got canned. So I don't think this has been in development for ages. And there was a lot of talks like after Dead Space, like after Visceral kind of closed, and the ideas they had for Dead Space 4, and they did want to move into more of an open direction where you would get to explore different space stations and planets and stuff. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was brought on because they do want to make it kind of open world. So who knows what's going on with that? But hopefully we will see it soon, and it won't just be a CG trailer. But let's be real, it probably will be.
God, dude, I hope this game's not open world. Like, the thing is, like, open world, like you could have good ones, right? But to me, it's just like you don't need to have every game as an open world. Like, I've been crying out for Ubisoft to not make an open world game for ages. I'm like, yeah, it's like every year, it's like we're always getting these
Well, you
open
get
world
in Rainbow
games.
Six Parasite,
Oh yeah,
or whatever
definitely.
the
I'm
hell it's
looking forward to
called,
that. It's like, come
Extraction.
on, like, I guess just like in the I don't know, like, do you think that single player games are just not like profitable to them or what? Like, I don't know. Like, they're single player games still, but like why can't you have a linear game? I guess it's harder to make like a linear game that lasts for more than 10 hours, and you have everyone complaining
Yeah.
that it's too short, right? Especially their audience, I imagine. Like, look at Resident Evil, everyone's complaining, or not everyone, but a lot of the people that aren't like traditional Resident Evil players were complaining that Village was only like 10 hours long, which is completely the normal length of a Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
It's weird because then you get things like Last of Us, which is like a 20-hour single player game. Part two, I'm talking about, which is like, yeah, I guess like it's as I don't know, like generations have gone on. It's like the expectations of these games have to go up. Like, we gotta get bigger assets, 4K visuals, 20-hour campaign. It's like, I don't know how these things started, like how, like with technology, like our expectations go up in length as well or something. It's weird. I don't mind shorter games, but it looks like that won't be happening. But yeah, it's sad, man. It's sad. Hopefully it looks good. We'll see it at EA Play later this month, which also got confirmed earlier this week that it's going to be a 40-minute runtime. So, I guess you could look at that as good or bad, right? To me, I see it mostly as a good thing, right? Because I obviously, if you don't have stuff to show, don't make it a 2-hour show with like a bunch of filler, right? So 40 minutes at least at the end of the day, it should mean that you're not going to be terribly bored throughout those 40 minutes, because most likely, they're going to be showing things and going by things pretty quickly. Look at like Ubisoft show, for example. That was a really good paced show. So yeah. But also, like as Charlie mentioned, I think before we started recording, that means also that they probably don't have terribly much as well. So, you know, keep your expectations accordingly. And yeah. Anything you want to add before we move on, Charlie?
No, I think I kind of said what I want to say about that one.
For sure. Anyways, it wouldn't be another traditional gaming week if we didn't have to talk about Kojima, and man, he's been in the news for like the last few weeks, and yeah, more here. So there's a few different aspects of Kojima that we wanted to talk about this week. The first one has to do with his partnership with Xbox. As we talked about, I think like last week, I told you about how Jeff Grubb was, reiterating how that partnership with Xbox is, happening, right? He kind of talked about it more this week, and he said that the point of the partnership is not necessarily like a single pitch idea. It's just to create the Kojima's kind of thought process and creativity with Microsoft technology. So things like cloud technology was thrown around, right? So it seems like this partnership is pretty loose, right? It's nothing that's confined to like a specific idea. It's more of just sharing, Microsoft's resources with Kojima's brain, essentially. So yeah, I'm interested in what this is. Like, cloud technology is a weird one. I could see this being a thing that I just don't care about at all, but I could also see it being something really cool. It'll be interesting to see what they do and how they want to utilize Kojima and what Kojima's ideas are. But yeah, Charlie, with this aspect, do you have anything you want to talk about? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I think Jeff kind of said in his article that like the reason why it's so kind of vague is that they don't have like a contract finished yet. Like, they're still in talks with lawyers to fill out the finer details. But to me, it sounds like it is a very vague kind of position that Phil or whoever at Xbox has kind of given to Kojima and basically said, look, we're interested in doing something with you, but we don't want to just give you a couple million, whatever, like 100, 200 million, and just let you do whatever. Because I imagine Microsoft are like, they've spent a lot of money recently, so like, they only want to spend money on things they know are going to guarantee them profits, and Kojima is not that. So I imagine it's very much like, we want to see what you can do with our stuff, and if we like something, then we'll put money into it. But they don't just want to dive head first, because it does seem like it is going to be kind of like a back and forth between the two. Like, they will give Kojima this tech, and he'll come back with some different ideas, and then if they like something there, then they can move forward. So who knows what's going to happen here, but I imagine it's not going to be as straightforward as it was when Sony kind of first partnered with Kojima and just like, yeah, we're making a game together, he can do whatever the hell he wants, because it was a good game, but it didn't do amazingly well for them, I don't think. So I imagine Xbox don't want to be in a similar situation to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Microsoft uses it because, like, on one hand, I could see exactly what you're talking about, right, with profits. But on the other hand, they've been making like a lot of moves lately that have shown that they don't care for profits and are more looking long term. Things like Game
Mm.
Pass, obviously, and things like the fact I think they had like a what they had like a video last month where it had like they had like some big executives at Microsoft kind of like showing their commitment to Xbox and the moves that they're making. Just seem pro consumer, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no idea what this is. I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. It doesn't even sound like a game, honestly. Like it just seems like some kind of weird, like breaking the fourth wall Kojima move or something like that he's gonna do. So, yeah, it'll
He's
be
gonna break out
interesting.
of a blue box.
Oh man, don't bring up Blue Box. I'll give me PTSD. But yeah, it's interesting, man. Uh, I guess we'll mention this here as well. Kojima has a Herman Holtz mouse pad. So, what was this like a image he posted on Twitter or something like
Yeah,
that?
he like posted saying in preparation or something like that, and he just had a picture of his desk and he had a mouse pad of Herman Holtz, and Herman replied to it saying, "Good morning, Kojima-san." So I don't know what the
That's
fuck's
funny.
going on, but either
That's
way, it's
weird.
really weird and really funny. So yeah.
He's cheating on Jeff Keighley. You love to see it, and you also hate to see it. Anyways, our last story on Kojima has to do with him and the Bloober team. So, essentially they announced a partnership this week. A lot of the details that they talked about kind of line up with things that we've heard with the Silent Hill leak. Charlie, did you want to go a bit more on this? Because I know you were kind of
Yeah, so we'd heard for a
on this.
while that Bloober in some form were going to be teaming up with Konami. This was after they kind of said that they were partnering up with a bigger publisher, right, to work on the next project. And for a while, the rumor was Konami have licensed out Silent Hill to Bloober Team. They've also licensed it out to another Japanese company, which they did announce here. They have said that they're partnering with Bloober to kind of basically swap creative ideas, which basically means, hey Bloober, how do we make games? Because we don't know how to do it anymore, and we'll give you the the Silent Hill license. But they did also say they're working with another prominent Japanese developer on an IP. So people are basically thinking this is going to be Kojima working on Silent Hill. Who knows? Um, but yeah, it seems like this is all but confirmed that a new Silent Hill game is in the works, and that Konami aren't necessarily going to have first party studios working on stuff anymore. They're just giving out their licenses to people who give them good pitches, whether that's Castlevania or Metal Gear or Silent Hill. Like they'll just be giving them out to other studios now. So yeah.
Very interesting. I hope we see a Silent Hill return. It's one of those series I don't have much background in, so I definitely want to play them. But yeah, just we don't see many horror games, especially like on the AAA side, I'd say. So that's
Mm.
always really exciting when they do come around. So hopefully all is well, and we do end up getting a Silent Hill game, especially for everyone, the Silent Hill fans that have been waiting. Like my God, it's been ages since we've last gotten a title, and especially everything that happened with Kojima, it's just like it's a tragedy, honestly. Anyways, in other news, Remedy is working on seemingly like every project that you could ever think of. So like I think we've talked about this in the past how they've worked on like 3 projects at once. They announced a new multiplayer title this week, and yeah, it's going to be set in the Control universe. And yeah, I think like what they had Vanguard in development. They're working on Crossfire, right, with Xbox. Is there anything else I'm missing? They're probably working on a Control 2, I imagine, or something like that.
Yeah, the next two kind of big games that seem to be coming are an Alan Wake remake slash remaster, because that was leaked on Epic Game Store,
Hmm.
and then also presumably Alan Wake 2 is the next big game they're working on from their main team, and then obviously Vanguard, they've got some kind of multiplayer project. Then they've got this new game, which I can't remember what the project name was, but that's confirmed to be set in the Control universe and published by 505. Because whatever Alan Wake remaster and whatever their other
It's going to
project is,
probably be Epic or
that's
something.
that's published by Epic. So they have a couple deals with that stuff. They did say this new multiplayer title is like a PVE like co-op thing. So I'm like, I'm starting like I love Left 4 Dead, but there's just too many of these games now. Why are there so many coming out and in development? Like it's crazy. Like
It's
the
crazy how we've gone
hope
from scarcity to like overabundance of
I know, right?
games in
Like
that
I just
genre.
hope it's a few years out and that there won't be anything out at the time, so it's just nice. But like this year, there's just so many of those kind of games coming out. But they said it's a ways off, and their other projects will be coming out before this. So I would guess I'd say Alan Wake Remaster is probably coming out sometime this year, and we would get an announcement for Alan Wake 2 alongside it, just because it was found in the store files alongside Final Fantasy VII Remake. So it seems like both of those games are coming to the Epic Store relatively soon. I'd imagine, like, end of the summer, that kind of timing.
I wonder how much of a remaster it'll be. I mean, I just played it like, what, less than 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it still looks pretty good. I would imagine it is going to be a very basic remaster, but the big things will be it'll have like RTX support or something. Because like Remedy were one of the first big studios to really work
Push
with
that,
RTX, and they did a really good job on Control. And Alan Wake's all about light, so it makes a ton of sense if it was all about ray tracing. And I imagine if they don't do too much else to it, it would be very easy to run it with ray tracing with like DLSS and stuff. So I'd personally love to replay it again. I really enjoy that game. So if that comes to Epic, that'd be cool. And obviously a sequel, like I've wanted forever. So
I wasn't the biggest fan of the gameplay, but I probably would replay it, to be honest, if it was anything special. Obviously, if it was like some bare bones thing, which it possibly could be, I'd probably hold off. But I'm more looking forward to that Alan Wake sequel, definitely.
Yeah.
Which hopefully is coming, and I've been waiting since I played that game back, in 2019. So yeah, it seems like they're working on like everything. I hope these projects are good. Like, I hope they're balancing it well, because I don't think I've heard of a project or a team working on like 5 things at once. That's at least something like Remedy. Like, obviously you have like support studios and other things like that, so it's not really one studio, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, hopefully it all comes well, and hopefully these projects end up coming out and are really good. But yeah. Anyways, a new studio was announced this week. This one's being held by Casey Hudson. So, yeah, as a lot of you know, Casey, you've probably seen his face around or at least heard his name. He was big on BioWare back in the day with things like, what was the Star Wars game called? It was like Knights of the Republic. And then obviously the Mass Effect series as well. So, yeah, some pretty big games behind his belt. Obviously, he left, I want to say he left like right after Anthem's early development, right? So he wasn't like a part of the main... Was he part of the main development of Anthem? Or...
Yeah, he was there for most of Anthem. He left like
most of
soon
Anthem.
after
Okay.
that.
Okay, so he left like right before, or like right as Anthem kind of show
I
started.
believe so, yeah.
All
I'm going to
that.
double check, but yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, he started a new studio. Started a new studio this week called Humanoid, and yeah, I'm not sure how big it's going to be with these things. It's kind of hard to tell. It's in its very early stages, right? Like, there wasn't really even anything big announced. He just kind of went out and said, hey, I'm starting this new studio. Let me see if I could pull up any more information on it.
So yeah, he left BioWare in 2014 and then came back in 2017 and then left in December. So he was there basically up until Dragon Age Inquisition came out, and then he came back when they were in the midst of Anthem, and then left presumably just after Anthem was cancelled, right? So when they were starting up with Dragon Age 4 again.
So yeah, he's going to be doing this with his colleagues, and that they're working on a new IP that they're really excited about. So it seems like it's decent in size, but we'll see. It could be something really cool to look out for. Definitely a lot of talent behind it. So I know a lot of RPG fans are going to be looking forward to that. So yeah, do you have anything else you wanted to add on that?
Not really. I mean, there's not too much on it right now. Like, it's always kind of hard to talk about these new studios because, like, you could say whatever you want and they're all basically the same. It's this guy from this studio you like is opening another studio and he's going to be making a game like the games you like. Stay tuned.
Exactly.
Like, that's all it is, right?
Exactly.
So
I hate these announcements so much.
Wait. Yeah.
Anyways, our last story, we're going to talk about Todd Howard. Everyone loves Todd Howard. Anyway, he was talking about kind of, the future of Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 in the engine. This one particularly to me because that engine's getting old and it needs to be replaced. The Creation Engine 2 is going to be used for Starfield, and he said as that relates to Elder Scrolls 6 afterwards, they're just going to be adding like enhancements and extra features that, they saw with Starfield's development and which could aid in, the Elder Scrolls 6. So nothing like drastically of a change. When talking about the Elder Scrolls 6, he talked about how it's still in the design phase. So yeah, this game is far off, man. Like, yeah, I've always said, like, I remember back, must have been like 4 years ago when they had that E3 where they announced Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield, and everyone was saying that, like, if Bethesda won E3, I was like, I bet there's not even, like, a single line of code that they wrote for the Elder Scrolls 6. Like, it's just some trailer that pulled out of their ass just so they, can get people to stop asking. So yeah, that game's far off. Like, yeah, as we already know, they're still like deep in development on Starfield. That won't even be finished until next year. So if you consider full development for Elder Scrolls 6 starting sometime after 2022, a fall, let's just say January 2023 at best. Yeah, that game's not coming out until like 2026, 2027.
Yeah.
Unless it's going to be a game you're going to hear about for like the next decade. Um, very well, good chance that we could have kids by the time this game comes out.
Oh god, no.
It's weird.
Terrifying.
Yeah, so gotta love these early announcements. Like that's like there's early announcements and then there's that announcement. Like they announced that game, but like they announced first of all, Starfield was announced early, and then you announced the game that's gonna come after Starfield, which is gonna take that's like announcing GTA 7. I know, it's like yeah, we're ages off from this game. And then another tidbit that he added in this interview is apparently, Todd Howard or, the team at Bethesda originally pitched the Indiana Jones game to LucasArts back in 2009. So it seems like this Indiana Jones project is one that's been a long time coming. So, yeah, I guess that always adds some, extra weight to it. I always thought it's kind of like a random announcement, right, that Machine Games working on it. But apparently it's something that they've been wanting for over a decade now. So really cool to see that, it's finally happening. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, do you have anything else you want to add on that Todd Howard story before we end off the podcast, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame they're still kind of stuck with that creation engine. I would like to see them kind of just make a new one, but the problem is engines take so long, or at least just use like Unreal or something. It's just, I get it, like they want to be able to have such full creative control and be able to make whatever they want, but like when that engine has been used for so long, and I mean it's the second version, so obviously it's not as old, but like it still really needs work, especially when you have bugs from like Fallout 4 that were still in Fallout 76, like, and there was such a big gap between those games and they were still there. Like stuff like that is a real problem, especially like by the time they actually get started on Elder Scrolls 6 like properly, I would not be surprised if the devs are already like, yeah, this engine's getting out of date. Like we need to update this heavily. And by the time
when did
Elder Scrolls
Creation
6...
Engine 2 start? Has there been any games that came out with it, or?
I want to say Creation Engine 2 was like Fallout 76, Fallout 4, but I'm not sure.
Oh jeez. If it's the same engine of Fallout 4 and Fallout 76,
I mean, it might be they've made this for Starfield, but even so, even if it's Creation, even if it's Creation Engine 2, it's still the Creation Engine. So at its heart, it's probably still the same engine. It's just they've changed a lot of the code more recently, but the base of it is probably still the same. Much like how Source is. You've got Source and then Source 2, but it's basically Source. They've just kind of
okay. So Creation Engine 2, Starfield will be the first game behind it. It looks like, yeah, we're just. But that's a good thing. Is, like, but we don't know how big of a change it will be.
Like they would have started work on that in what, like 2017 maybe 2018. So like the engine, by the time Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, that engine will be nearly 10 years old. So like it will be vastly outdated by anything else that's on the market at that point. And I think that's the biggest problem they're going to have, is that they're going to want to include all this tech that other people are using and they might struggle. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's always the problem when you promise games way too early. Like, I feel like they like, I get it, you want to tell people, hey, we are making it, but, like, you really lock yourselves into, like, it's such a tight fit, really, because everyone knows it's coming, and they're always expecting it. Like, yeah, I feel like they kind of chuck themselves in the corner, because now when anyone asks about anything, they're always going to ask about Elder Scrolls 6 more than they probably did before, to be honest.
Yeah, engines are always tricky, especially with games as a service, or just any game that's like in development for a long period of time. Like Destiny's like a notorious one where like that engine's really bad for like coming out with new updates really quickly. They've gotten better over time, but that one was like notorious, at least in the early years. And then obviously with like Fallout, right? Another story is like Valve has been notorious, like when they were trying to make games while creating Source 2 at the same time, like it was just hell. Because essentially, if you're trying to make a game while also making an engine, you're like practically trying to like steer a boat while you're building the boat at the same time. Like, it's just
it's like trying to drive a train, but also you're placing down the tracks as you're driving it, and so it's constantly just creating yourself way more work than you need to.
Yeah. So hopefully it comes out and it's good. Yeah, it'll be cool to see how Creation Engine 2. That does excite me that this will be the first game behind it, but we just don't know how big of a change Creation Engine 2 will be from Creation Engine. So, yeah. Anyways, that has been it for this week. A lot of cool news, a little small stories. Yeah, as I said, next week we most likely won't have an episode unless something big happens where we gotta really, cover it. So unless there's like a state of play next week or something big, yeah, assume that we'll be seeing you in 2 weeks' time. And yeah, of course, you can always join our Discord for all the latest information and more. And yeah, that being said, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next episode. Take care.
See you later.